Thanks for listening to Curious Cat, the podcast that examines a shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. I'm your host, Jennifer Hotz. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. Have you ever stepped on a mountain path and felt called by the burbling waters of a river? Felt a breeze blow through a thick stand of aspen and looked up to see a column of sunlight that felt important? Peeked a mountain and witnessed a cobble of huge stones struck by a gap in the middle of them that seemed to widen when you looked closer. Walked into an old house and felt dizzy, disoriented. Caught a glimpse of the past as you swam in the waters of a Mexican cenote. Daydreamed about what might lie at the end of a rainbow. There are places on Earth where people report seeing other dimensions, openings to secret worlds, and in some case, an entrance place for mythical creatures to make their debut. Purgatory, Crossroads, Vortexes, wormholes, caves, mines, portals, Laylines, Cenotes, the wide open starlit sky. This week, we are venturing across the bridge from the solid ground beneath our feet to other worlds and re-examining the myths and legends with the mindset, what if they are all factual? Let's get into it. I'd like to begin with a bridge between worlds that I wanted to cross, but I couldn't. It was in Bali, Indonesia. My husband and I eloped there years and years ago. Not knowing the native language, we hired a guide to take us on daily outings. A gung was our guide. He was kind, friendly, knowledgeable, and helpful. Based on our travel guidebook, we found sites to visit across the island it was kind of at our insistence, like, look at this, Agung, can you take us there? But because Agung knew Bali like the back of his hand, soon we asked him to show us the places we should experience before we left the island. On one such outing, he drove us to a part of the island I'd read about, and I asked about this community that lived a short boat ride over the lake from where we stood. They had unique death rituals, laying their deceased loved ones beneath a massive tree, ancient and known for its fragrance, which blessed their dead. Agung shook his head and he frowned. I wondered if he didn't know or if my language was so crappy he couldn't understand. Then I realized he knew because he responded in beautiful English, "This is no place for newlyweds. We shouldn't go. And if we wanted to, he would not accompany us across the lake." His demeanor changed in that instant from light to heavy in a blink. Instead, he drove us to an area that featured local art and artisans, and the whole vibe lightened up again. It wasn't until decades later that I researched that part of Bali. Exploring Trunnion Village is a fascinating experience, not least because this Bali Aga village doesn't bury its dead, says one article that I found and I've linked to in the show notes. Instead, they write, the people leave dead bodies to rot away in the open air beneath the branches of a tree said to purify the air and prevent it from stinking. In Trunnion Village on Bali, Indonesia, there's a unique tradition, and it dictates that the dead are not buried or cremated, but instead the most honored way to do it is being placed beneath a large banyan tree to decompose in the open air. This practice is rooted in the belief that the tree's scent helps neutralize the smell of decay and that exposing the deceased to nature allows them to return to the earth. That, according to the BBC. Here's a little more information that I found. The village of Trunnion is located on the eastern shore of Lake Bator in Bali, and they follow a distinctive burial practice. They lay their deceased out on the ground, often enclosed in bamboo cages beneath the banyan tree, and it's very expensive to do. The banyan tree is known locally as Tara Menyan. It's believed to have a purifying effect on the soul, and it prevents the smell of decay from being too strong, according to Hotels.com, India. Once the bones remain, they are often placed in a separate area, sometimes with skulls displayed as part of the ritual. That, according to Finn's Beach Club. Trunnion is inhabited by the Bali Aga, which we'll talk about in a minute, the original Balinese people who have maintained this traditional burial practice. While the practice may seem unusual to outsiders, it is seen as a respectful way to honor the deceased and allow them to return to the natural world. The BBC did a really great article on the Trunnion village, and I want you to find the links in the show notes so you can see the images that go along with it. But in it, Theodora Sutcliffe writes, "My cousin is over there," my guide Ketu Blen explained, pointing to a skull and bundle of clothing beneath a tatty palm and bamboo frame. "But I don't feel anything when I look at him." The cemetery in Trunnion, Bali, where villagers sail their dead in canoes to rot in the open air, is an isolated place. Shielded by steep and jungled slopes, it rests on the shores of a vast highland crater lake, a short boat ride from its parent village, and on an island where most Balinese Hindus cremate their dead. Trunnion is unique. Blends Bali Aga people who live in typically remote and isolated villages, mainly in northeast Bali, are some of the island's oldest inhabitants. Trunnion dates back to at least 911 CE. Like most Balinese, the Bali Aga follow Bali's eccentric brand of Hinduism, but each village cluster, like the group of villages Trunnion heads, also has its own religious rituals and beliefs. In Tenganan, the most famous Bali Aga village, that means spinning marriageable young women in bamboo Ferris wheels and weaving magic cloth. In Trunnion, that means ritual whipping with rattan shoots and exposing the dead to rot in the open air. There are actually 2 cemeteries in Trunnion, Blen explained, with this one reserved for those whose life's journey count as complete. Everyone here had been married when they died, he said. People who die before they're married or drown in the lake, we put in the earth. Religion in Trunnion is even more dense with animism than most Balinese Hinduism. The village, dominated by a grand temple whose 11 pagodas mirror the 11 corpses exposed in the cemetery, has a perilous location. It perches below an active volcano on the shores of a choppy crater lake, imperiled by the twin natural dangers of fire and water, and I would argue the balance between fire and water, right? Where they meet, where they intersect is steam, isn't it? And steam is when you incorporate air with that fire and that water, and it turns into something else, something ethereal, which makes it so appropriate. But I'm sorry to interrupt. The volcano Mount Bator has shaped both death and life here for centuries. Here we have the volcano, Blen explained. So it's not possible to burn people. It could cause a problem with the volcano. Originally, for fear of enraging the volcano, now identified as the Hindu god Brahma, the dead are left to rot. The number 11 has rich significance in Hinduism, so there are just 11 arched palm and bamboo cages in the cemetery at one time. Once all are filled, villagers move the oldest remains to an open-air ossuary. That's if there are remains left to move. Often the bones just disappear. Victims, I assume, of the monkeys that whoop in the forest and feast on food offerings left for gods and corpses. And yet, for all the litter that fills the cemetery, a human thigh bone casually discarded beside an ancient flip-flop amid a clutter of empty dishes, the place had a strange serenity. Bizarrely, there was no smell of death. The corpses, shielded by bright umbrellas and dressed in their favorite clothes, felt at peace. And the gaze of the skulls in the ossuary seemed calm, their journey over and their spirits flown. The most recent addition to the graveyard was the village priest, or manku, who died 26 days before this author's visit. Blend's cousin had been there months. Because bodies may only be brought to the cemetery and its adjoining temple on auspicious days, and the family has to raise money for the funeral, some corpses stay at home for days or weeks beforehand. Villagers use formaldehyde to stop their loved ones rotting over the long wait. There is more than formaldehyde to the missing stench, it seems. A towering, tangled, mossy tree that looks like an ancient banyan dominates the open-air cemetery. Locals believe that the tree, called taro menyan, or fragrant tree, overpowers the rotting smell. This tree is magic, explained Blend's friend Ketu Dharma Yasa. At home, the bodies would smell. Here, it's only because of the tree. It's not just the death ritual, the magic tree that makes this lakeside fishing village unusual. The entire village still gathers to make communal decisions at the Bale Arguing, a cluster of open-air platforms that form the heart of the three-tiered village. And once a year, around October, the young men dress up in elaborate costumes of fringed banana leaf and brandish rattan shoot whips in a ritual dance called Brutuk. Its aim is to sanctify the temple, thus keeping the village and villagers safe. But it's the cemetery with its strange serenity that defines Trunnion, and they're surrounded by reminders of the mortality we all share and the death that will come to all of us. I asked Blend how he could look at the decaying remains of his cousin that had lived and not feel grief. For in Trunnion, as everywhere, both death and grief are cultural acts. It's just more obvious here. I thought that was an amazing article. And again, the links are in the show notes for you to enjoy. The canoe ride, though, across the lake would be haunting, wouldn't it? But the image of a Balinese monkey stealing my bones, oh my gosh, I would love for my bones to have purpose after I die or be the plaything of a monkey in Bali. But I can see why, looking back, our well-meaning guides wanted to keep me from the island. Let's turn our attention to the other side of the globe, to Mexico and their sacred cenotes. The Yucatan Peninsula, where many cenotes are found, is composed of limestone, which over time dissolves to form sinkholes and underground rivers, creating the unique landscape that is home to cenotes. According to Maya beliefs, cenotes were considered entrances to the underworld, a realm known as Xibalba. These sinkholes were not only a vital source of fresh water, but also held deep religious and cultural significance, being believed to be portals to the afterlife. The ancient Maya civilization viewed cenotes as more than just water sources. So they're sacred spaces. They're believed to be gateways to the underworld, Xibalba. Xibalba was considered the realm of the dead, a place of darkness and challenges where the gods reside and the origin of life was believed to be. Cenotes were often used for rituals and sacrifices. Offerings including human remains and precious artifacts were deposited into the cenotes to appease the gods and ensure a balance between the living world and the underworld, according to a study by Sunset World Resorts and Vacations Experiences. The Maya often depicted the underworld as a journey through caves and tunnels, mirroring the cenotes' underground nature. Here's more from that article by Much Better Adventures. Cenotes in the Riviera Maya also had symbolic significance. They were one of 3 entrances to the Maya underworld. The other 2 were caves and the ball courts for the game Lokti. I hope I'm saying that right. Because of this, offerings to the gods and ancestors were often thrown into the pools. Rare gold figures and bells were discovered in its waters, alongside wood and ceramic objects that would otherwise have decomposed. In the late classic period of the civilization, that was AD 600 to 900, there was even a cenote cult at the ancient city of Chichen Itza. It honored water deities with prayers and rituals. Human sacrifices to the rain god Chak were thrown into what is now known as sacred cenote. This may have been a response to degrading environmental conditions, where periods of drought were making farming more difficult and even impossible in certain locations, explains Maya archaeologist Richard Kinkella. This legend was confirmed by Edward Herbert Thompson, who bought the site in 1904 and dredged the cenote. He discovered skeletons in the subterranean depths. Diving in the cenotes often leads to remarkable archaeological discoveries. Human remains have also been discovered at Sak Aktun, known as Haunted Cenote, by archaeologist Bradley Russell and his team. However, the bones are unmarked, suggesting sacrifice was not the cause. Bradley believes that they might have been plague victims, as the cenote lies outside the walls of an ancient Mayan city. But it's not all macabre. A later archaeological project at Sacred Cenote uncovered hundreds of carved jade plaques and beads. Even rare gold figures and bells were discovered in the waters, alongside wood and ceramic objects that would otherwise have decomposed. In November 2021, archaeologists discovered an intact wooden canoe in a cenote near Chichen Itza, the most well-preserved Mayan boat ever found. It is believed to have been used to collect water or deposit offerings in the center of the cenote. Preliminary research dates it from 830 to 950 CE, meaning it's around 1,000 years old. But there are finds which date back even further. Between 2017 and 2018, divers recovered burnt charcoal samples from the ancestors' chamber of the Aktun Ha cenote. Sample analysis revealed that the wood had been burnt between 10,250 years ago and 10,750 years ago, the last remains of ancient fires. The divers also discovered stone tools such as hammers and scrapers in the cenote. This suggests that before the cave flooded, it was used as a shelter for cooking and butchery by prehistoric peoples. The blue waters of the cenote contain numerous untold stories. As exploration of them continues, archaeologists will continue to uncover vital clues about the region's history and culture. Let's turn to the bridges between worlds in the sky. I'm talking wormholes, vortexes, and portals. Oh my. I asked AI about those. Do they exist? And AI answered, portals to other worlds are a common concept in science fiction and fantasy, but there's no scientific evidence to support their existence in reality. While some theoretical physics concepts like wormholes or parallel universes explore the possibility of connecting different points in space-time or even other universes, these remain theoretical and haven't been observed. Mythology and folklore often feature portals or doorways to other worlds or dimensions, often described as magical or supernatural. In fiction and fantasy, portals are frequently depicted as physical structures like doors, gateways, or even seemingly ordinary objects. Think Harry Potter portkey, right? That allow travel to other realities. They are often used to introduce new worlds, creatures, and storylines, serving as a way for characters to explore the unknown. In theoretical physics, Einstein and Rosen theorized that wormholes, which could act as bridges connecting different points in space-time, might exist. The concept of multi-universes, or the multiverse, each with its own laws of physics and potentially connected to ours, has also fueled speculation about portals or other ways to travel between them. Some interpretations of string theory suggest that our universe could be just one of many within a larger multiverse, with possibilities for interdimensional travel. In mythology and folklore, portals are often associated with solstices, magical objects, or specific locations. They can represent journeys to other worlds, encounters with spirits or deities, or even the afterlife. And AI advises us, here are some important considerations. There's no scientific evidence to support the existence of portals in the real world. Theoretical concepts like wormholes and the multiverse are still largely speculative and require further research. The concept of portals is primarily a tool used in storytelling and creative expression. Okay, I found some of that information very interesting, but I was craving more, so I went deeper. And that journey into research took me to Reddit first, where one Redditor named Steve says this. Just to expand on this a little, there are a great many ways to enter the other world in Irish myth and folklore. He goes on to explain one of the most common would probably be through the Sidhe, the fairy mounds, which would have been the homes of the Tuatha De Danann. These are quiet, often located at Neolithic burial sites, so especially in tales relating to the Tuatha De Danann, they would easily enter there. It's also fairly common to enter the otherworld at the royal seats, Tara and the 4 provincial seats. Some tales represent individuals walking out from these sites and finding themselves in the otherworld. Perhaps the most famous of these is Owen Nutgot, the Cave of Cats at Roth Krogan in Connacht. And I'm so sorry about my pronunciation. Hostels were a very specific type of gathering halls, possibly one in each province that straddle the boundary between the real world and the other world. Several tales highlight their importance and strangeness, like the destruction of Da Derga's hostel, the hostel of Da Chaka, the intoxication of Uliad, to name a few. As you say, through or across water, rivers, lakes, seas, remote places like mountaintops, caves, the otherworld is very much an ever-present location that's less hard to find and enter, and more something you need to be careful you don't accidentally wander into. Okay, that's the juicy information I sought. Then someone responded to Steve. His name is Vocio the Vocal, and they responded with more information. In the myths of Austria, it's the same, often even combined. People falling into lakes or a mountain hole, and inside there is a big underground lake with small lights flying around, where they make contact with spiritual beings of different kinds, often a never-aging youngling or a dwarf with similar attributes, like a lightning-like rod and a crown. Sometimes it is described as the entrance to the world of the souls. Other legends are about the door. It can be a door into a mountain or a door in the mist or something else, mostly described as a real door and often appears at the solstice. Inside the door, there's another world described as so beautiful that people are afraid to walk in and the door dissolves. And yet another Redditor added this. In Finnic folklore, the forest can function as port to yet another realm called the Metsan Pieto, the forest cover, the world of Haltias or Mahinins and Meninkanins, which is a kind of distorted and unruly pocket dimension. That is such an interesting description, a pocket dimension. They go on, though, usually due to a mischievous Haltia or Manhinin or Meninkanin, people can end up in those worlds through this invisible gate and get lost there forever unless someone conjures or summons them back. But to do so, the spellcaster has to know exactly where the missing person was. However, this is not the only otherworldly gate that appears in Finnic mythology. For example, the deepest point at the bottom of ponds and the North Star as the pole star is believed to serve as a gate to the underworld called Tuonela. According to folk beliefs, soul birds and soul fish transported the souls of the deceased through them to the afterlife, where they materialized in the condition they had died. For example, if you had drowned, you were wet. If you had been burned, you would have burns. And if you had lost your head, you were headless. And in addition to these, there was also a third so-called special otherworldly gate called the Lovi, or the Notch, used by sages, seers, shaman, healers, and spirits. Lovi was a special route through which, for example, healers asked to get strength from the spirits, and the Finnic shamans traveled to the underworld to ask important traditional information from their spirits and ancestors. Passing through the Lovi was called either Lovista or Nastastas, deriving from the word notch, or Lovine Lankiamin, which I know I'm mangling, which is falling into the niche, depending on the situation. But then, folks, I found this from medium.com. Brace yourselves. 4 mysterious places that could be portals to other worlds. Is there a portal connecting Mars and France? Okay, I was hooked. I was hooked by the subhead. Portals, they said, to the other worlds have fascinated humanity for centuries, appearing in science fiction, mythology, and even some scientific theories. These gateways, often depicted as passages to alternate dimensions or realities, captivate our imagination with the possibility of otherworldly encounters. While many consider them to be fictional or mythical, certain places on Earth have sparked curiosity and debate, with some believing they could be real portals. Number 1, the Martian doorway. Okay, in recent years, an intriguing feature on Mars has captured the attention of both scientists and the public. A photo taken by the Mars Curiosity rover appeared to show a doorway-like structure on the planet's surface. This image, released by NASA, sparked widespread curiosity and speculation about its nature and origin. NASA scientists quickly provided an explanation for this phenomenon. They stated that the doorway is likely a result of natural geological processes, possibly caused by erosion or the movement of sand dunes. The formation, measuring just 11.1 inches tall, is considered by experts to be a classic example of periodola. Okay, my God, if I had $1 for every time NASA mentions periodola, oh my goodness, I would have a big stack of dollars. The crevice, though, they go on to say, is roughly 30 centimeters wide and 45 centimeters tall, and it's part of a larger outcrop with numerous intersecting fractures. Despite the scientific explanation, the image has fueled various speculative theories. Some suggest the possibility of it being a portal to an underground world, while others speculate about an ancient alien civilization, because why wouldn't we? These ideas, though not supported by evidence, continue to captivate the imagination. The cultural impact of such discoveries can't be understated. Okay, I'm sorry to be a tease, but the rest of their article is behind a paywall. But here's a summary to some other ones that they mentioned, because I asked AI to cheat it. From the Martian doorway and the Phos Dion to the Gate of the Gods and liminal spaces. Each site stirs the imagination and challenges our understanding of the world. Okay, so I was kind of mad. I kept doing my digging because I felt like I was cheated, and I was cheating you because you deserve the rest of those sites. And now I feel such satisfaction because kickass.com has an article titled 8 Otherworldly Portals. 8, yes, take that medium paywall. Here is their list. Number 1, Fosse d'Aillon. In France, there's a mysterious underground spring whose source has remained unknown for centuries. Located in the Burgundy region in France, this spring produces 311 liters of water every second. Explorers have tried to dig deeper into its depths, but none have identified its true origin. Only one diver reached a depth of 230 feet. The other 3 who decided to try exploring this spring never made it. People believe 2 theories about the Fosse d'Aillon. Some think it's a bottomless spring, while others believe it's a portal to another world. This makes a lot of sense, mainly because the source of this water is unknown. There are stories of people vanishing after diving into this spring, with more rumors suggesting serpents are swimming in the depths. The stone surrounding the Fosse d'Aillon makes it look like a portal to another world. So check out their article in the links and you'll see some photos of it. Number 2, that doorway to Mars that I mentioned in that little teaser from medium.com. They mentioned that NASA calls it periodola, which, that makes me so mad. But coming in at number 3, Ranmasu Uyana, the Stargate in Sri Lanka. There's an image of a map or chart that locals believe is a secret code that can be used to communicate with other realms. The Ranmasa Uyasa, which translates to the Golden Fish Park, is located in the holy city of Anuradhapura. Beneath this map are 4 seats that were sculpted to provide an easy view of the Stargate, which adds more mystery to the concept. Unfortunately, no linguist or historian has ever unlocked that secret code on that map. Number 4, Bermuda Triangle. For a long time, the Bermuda Triangle has been surrounded by mystery attributed to the disappearances of planes and ships, even though scientists have ruled that the incidents in the Bermuda Triangle are caused by human error, bad weather, and underwater topography, right? Yeah, it's a magnetic space, isn't it? It's a ley line, but many still believe it's either a portal to another world or an extraterrestrial hotspot. People really believe it's an extraterrestrial hotspot because planes and ships that sink in these waters disappear entirely from the face of the earth. So the assumption is that they may have traveled to another world and never found a way back. Number 5, Devil's Sea. Okay, I always think of Missing 411 David Paulides, who says to watch yourself in places with the name devil in them. The Devil's Sea is the Bermuda Triangle version of the Pacific Ocean, also known as the Devil's Triangle. This area is located on the coast of Japan. It is infamous for the disappearance of several vessels, strange lights, and magnetic anomalies. As a result, the locals have developed a theory that it is a portal to another world, just like the Bermuda Triangle. Scientists have explained that the reasons behind the disappearances are strong ocean currents, terrible weather, and underwater volcanoes. However, the mystery remains. Number 6, Stonehenge. Archaeologists and historians are still trying to sort out why it was built in the first place. But that aside, because the stones perfectly align with equinoxes, solstices, and celestial bodies, it is speculated to have been a portal to different realms. One of the urban legends about the Stonehenge connection alleges that people would enter the circle and be transported to other worlds. Number 7, Hollow Earth. Oh my gosh, this subject has enough meat on its bones to be its own episode. But the article states, Edmund Halley, the man who discovered Halley's Comet, developed a hollow Earth theory. In the late 17th century, Edmund Halley claimed that Earth had 3 hollow concentric shells. Later in the 18th century, mathematician Leonhard Euler contributed to this theory, arguing that Earth was entirely hollow and had no concentric shells, the sun in the middle. He also mentioned that the poles were entry points to the hollow Earth. Admiral Byrd stumbled across the hollow Earth 2 centuries later as he explored the North Pole. Byrd saw a green valley which he and his team entered, and they discovered an intelligent civilization. These excerpts were pulled from his diary. However, since he didn't publish the book, there's no way to verify whether these claims are true or false. Also, his team members never talked about such an encounter. Therefore, there is no evidence to support the claims. That said, people have spotted bizarre holes in the Arctic ice many times. Okay, and coming in at number 8, my personal favorite of all time, Disneyland. Yeah, the happiest place on earth. So here's what the article says. Disneyland is undeniably one of the realms where cartoons and fairy tales come to life. Interestingly, in 2016, one of the visitors, Kyle, spotted a portal forming in the sky of Disneyland, California. According to Kyle, he felt something strange and alien. This story has been debunked over the years, with scientists claiming that Kyle saw the effect of pyrotechnics that created smoke rings in the sky. Okay, I personally broke my ankle in Toontown years ago, and my daughter Bryn and I were driven through the back lots in a golf cart, and they kept saying no cameras and no telling people what we saw. Oh my God, my ankle was the size of an elephant's leg. So taking a photo of a headless Goofy character was the least of my concerns. Oh, but we need to talk about Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It features at the end of it a gateway to hell, which was not in the original drawings. With its now iconic red rubber demons bouncing up and down. One YouTuber dedicated an entire video on the hell iconography, which I've linked to in the show notes. Mr. Toad is a favorite ride for many, and this strange twist at the end has made it a cult favorite too. In October 2022, there was rumored footage that showed an ancient doorway in the Grand Canyon, and it was spotted on Google Earth. The Grand Canyon is rife with rumors, right? With so much of its acreage designated off limits. That secrecy has started lots of internet gossip, including that there are entrances to underground cities there, occupied by what else? Aliens. Yeah. I found an article from unilad.com about that. The author Joe Harker writes, an ancient doorway spotted in the Grand Canyon using Google Earth has conspiracy theorists convinced it's a sign that aliens are real. You might see the blurry Google Earth pictures of something in the Grand Canyon that looks sort of like a doorway and think it's a bunch of stylistically arranged rocks. But conspiracy theorists know better. What you're looking at here is bona fide proof that aliens exist, and they've been leaving behind doorways carved into the very ground itself. About 250 miles east of Las Vegas in the Grand Canyon, there's a mysterious spot that looks too well designed to be a natural rock formation. At first glance, it's pretty well hidden among the rocks, the shadows, and scrubland of the Grand Canyon, but once you spot it, it's impossible to ignore. As for what lies beneath the mysterious door, we don't know, but we can have a lot of fun speculating. Author Brad Olson said he was blown away when he saw it, while plenty of conspiracy theorists are convinced it's a sign that aliens will come not from the sky, but from deep below the ground. However, a few of them think the ancient doorway looks more ancient Egyptian than alien, and you can sort of see what they mean if you look at the links in the show notes and follow it to the image. Although at the end of the day, a doorway is a doorway. It's not like conspiracy theorists to make things up or have some crazy ideas, the author says, laughing. So clearly this is the work of aliens who used to run ancient Egypt, and the pyramids were their spaceships. I love that. If aliens really are real, then the burning question has got to be why they haven't come to visit us yet, especially since we're so cool and fun. According to a team of scientists who've been working on this problem, it's because a species advanced enough to fly through space and visit Earth likely has so many problems to deal with that they've just not caught the time to stick around. Dr. Michael Wong and Dr. Stuart Bartlett suggest that alien civilizations advanced enough to find us are probably struggling with crises like energy usage and overpopulation, which hampers innovation. Other scientists have suggested that we're not as cool as we think we are. Oh, that hurts. And maybe the reason aliens don't visit us is because they don't want to. Wow, I feel really shunned. Some have even suggested that the detection of nitrous oxide, also known as laughing gas, could be a sign of life on other worlds, as it's made by living things. The idea goes that if we find nitrous oxide, then you'll probably find some sort of life nearby. Okay, this entire story reminded me of Mount Adams in Washington State. So this majestic peak is a part of the Cascade Mountain Range. There's a remote viewing camp situated at its base, and it's been long rumored and partially documented that UFOs or UAPs, under certain conditions, fly into and out of the side of the mountain. I produced an entire show on Mount Adams for my special Cascadia season, and I've put the links to it in the show notes. Be sure to check it out. What do you do if you want to spot a portal? I found an article on Blue Soul Earth that tells a personal story about a portal encounter in nature. Diana Palm writes, portals are a natural phenomenon occurring in nature and are considered a doorway or a gate. Some believe that portals connect two worlds, dimensions, or times. The first time I experienced a portal was in 1997 when I was hiking in Sedona, Arizona. While I unintentionally stepped into the portal, everything around me shifted. I could still see my surroundings, but there was a sense of walking in slow motion and absolute silence. Wow. The trees in front of me seemed to have motion as if they were surrounded by heat waves. What a beautiful description. And my hiking partner was no longer there. I experienced a peak in my own awareness with crystal clarity and knew that I had somehow stepped into another reality. And just like that, about 10 steps later, I re-emerged and everything returned to normal. I could hear the leaves and twigs snap under my feet. The air was filled with birds singing, and my hiking partner was walking right behind me again. I remembered stopping to look around as I tried to understand what had happened and wondered if I could enter that portal at will. I placed my hand upon the trees that were now standing still and took a few deep breaths. As I continued to work with energy healing, my interest in portals grew. I wondered if they could be created and what they could be used for. So entering the world of portals, she describes, I noticed that when I did past life travels, portals would show up in my mind's eye, and that if I entered one, I would emerge in a recreation of the life that I wished to access. Portals can also be created with energy and intention for accessing healing into the afterlife. Every time I cross over a ghost in need of healing, I create and use a portal to send them through. Sometimes I can see the loved ones that are waiting for them on the other side, and I can often hear the cheers and encouragement coming from them. When a person dies, they have a certain amount of time to cross over before they lose their opportunity and get stuck in the Earth's magnetic grid. Okay, I don't really believe in that because I've had souls reach out to me that they died 10 plus years ago and they've been stuck. But she goes on, the choice to avoid the light is always made by the individual's free will. Well, I do believe in that. Fear of being judged is among the reasons for staying on Earth, along with suicide, traumatic death, and dedication to their role on Earth. So maybe soldiers can feel that way toward a particular battle they were fighting and don't want to leave their comrades behind. Or a mother could feel that way about leaving her small children behind. Once the window closes, their spirit becomes a ghost and they're stuck on Earth, unable to progress and heal. Eventually, they will have another opportunity to go to the light. But it may be hundreds of years from that initial first opportunity. When a spirit remains unhealed, their living family suffers and often feels an ongoing sense of grief. It's like a silent sadness that underlies everything else and affects everyone in a genetic family. When I'm called in to heal these spirits, and again, this is the author Diane, the entire family benefits by experiencing a shift in energy and the relief of their grief. She goes on to say, I've also been able to create portals in the woods that can do some of the healing work for me when I'm not available. With a very strong, clear intention, I get my connection to God and Source and work with the energy to create a portal of light. I teach this portal how to direct the energy of unhealed spirits into the light, creating a one-way only portal for healing. That reminds me of the crystal cave that I created for my dad, Mike. But she goes on, while visiting the Burlington Vortex Haunted Woods tour, I encountered so many spirits that the woods felt overcrowded, dense. I decided to open up a portal and do a healing for any that needed help and asked a friend to assist me by holding hands and sharing in that intention. I got my connection, opened the portal, and began sending the unhealed spirits into the light. The tour leader, who's now a dear friend and fellow researcher of unknown things, began to take pictures and captured our portal on film. It was amazing for me to see physical proof of what I had been intuitively seeing for years. We had a small bonfire burning nearby, and as we created a portal, the smoke was thick and lay heavy over us like a blanket. I first commanded a clearing of our area to create a sacred space to work in. I also commanded that the mosquitoes stay at bay because we were getting bit so fiercely. Once this was accomplished, I opened up a portal to heal the spirits and began sending them into the light. And she has photos with all of this on the link in the show notes, so go check them out. When I am opening one-way portals to serve the spirit world, I work with the land and other natural tools to assist in maintaining the energy. At one point in my life, there were so many unhealed spirits coming to me that I didn't have free time. My spirit team stepped in and showed me how to create a portal that would assist me with my purpose. I built a permanent medicine wheel in my yard that contained a one-way portal to the light. I used river rock to define my medicine wheel, but feel free to be creative in your process, she says. If you feel led to work with the spirit world, then you already know how much work there is to do. It's okay, she says, to have some help and create your own portal to assist. When I completed mine, I went to the store to pick up some refreshments, and when I returned, there were 4 very large ravens sitting on the bench beside my medicine wheel. They appeared to be evaluating my project. I love that, and giving their final approval. Ravens are known to be a symbol for eternal life and a bridge between heaven and earth. How appropriate. The raven has been my animal totem since that time. And she includes these tips to create your own portal. And again, use your creativity. Find the highest energy point in your yard. Dowsing rods work well for this. Create a sacred medicine wheel with the highest energy point in the center. Use numerology to establish your measurements. 7 represents heaven. Using a compass to detect north, south, east, and west. Mark each direction with a Herkimer diamond or another very high vibrational crystal to create an energetic grid. Light tiki torches in each of the directions for the ceremony. Meditate and connect with God, source, universal energy, and infuse the land with the purpose to hold open a one-way only portal for unhealed spirits to go to the light. Oh my gosh, are you brave enough to create a portal? I feel very inspired. I've seen portals, mostly in nature myself. I've seen them at the top of a mountain after doing a hike up, and looking at a stack of boulders. I've sworn that if I put my arm inside the gap, that it would just disappear. I've seen places in a wooded bluff above a raging river, then shut my eyes and a perfect halo of glowing lights appeared behind my eyelids. So I thought that had to be a portal. I've been in old buildings where a certain mirror hung in a certain way made me feel lightheaded. Be sure to pay attention to your surroundings this week. If you get butterflies when you step into an old house or feel lightheaded on a hike where water and stone converge, maybe you just encountered a bridge to another world. Either that or the sushi at the mini mart was bad. Until next week, stay curious. I love you.